Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's Tom Sokolowski, the former director of the Andy Warhol Museum. Warhol's in the news today.
Really?
The foundation is.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah.
What did they do?
Excuse us. I know you want to talk about Bill Clinton, and we will in just a second. Here's the, they're auctioning off all their stuff, but I suppose you knew they were going to do that anyway.
No.
Oh, my God! Well, I'll let you read that while I babble some. So, yeah.
Can I just say something first that I was talking about? I was just saying to Lynn, well, obviously we're going to talk about the convention, but to me, when I woke up this morning and read this bit on the Genome Project, I was saying just about, was it about a month ago, 2 months ago, when they found this matter that literally makes up ions, like the very smallest, at least when I was going to school, that was the nanoest we got. And now we know what the soup is that creates those. And now it seems, from what I could understand of this genome thing, it was thought that on the double helix, the 32, if I'm not mistaken, sites, 36, I used to know that. Anyway, that there was junk DNA that just sort of, rolled around like, mozzarella on a pizza. But now it turns out of the somehow 8,000 genes, 8,000 bits of DNA, every single one counts for something. And just the point I was making was, even though we don't understand either of those things, that in our time, in a 3-month period, science has now zoomed so far forward. To be thinking of living, it's like when Marie Curie found, twice getting the Nobel Prize. In our time, just look, how far we're going.
Right. Well, it what is that called? Exponential.
Yes, right,
growth.
exactly.
It just keeps, it's exploding now because what you're talking about will then lead to
many more.
Who knows how many more breakthroughs, and I'm sure that there's all kinds of things going on. I don't think science reporting is exactly the greatest in this.
Well, because it's
difficult.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's difficult to get right.
Yes.
And often in efforts to get scientific writing right, or at least understandable for somebody like me, it ends up being sort of not right.
Because it's so simplified.
Because it's simplified to the point of being then actually altered and not quite correct.
But also, the other interesting thing is, you think of Marie Curie, and she's there in her little French studio, lovely Polish girl that she was. But now it said 424 scientists all over the world in the last 5 years have been working on this. So how also collaborative thinking, which is something that is really very modern. It's also enabled by computers.
It also makes you wonder, with this the prize-giving aspect of Nobels, and if that's even to have one person anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm sure sometimes that is correct. This one person made that breakthrough.
Right.
But so much of science now is extraordinarily collaborative that it would seem that you have to give it to,
Well, we certainly know of two, like Frick and Crick, or Whack and Crack, who found the double helix.
Crick and, Come on.
I can't remember.
How long does it take before we start doing this?
Yeah, really. But the other thing we were talking about, because we were talking about this before we went on the air, also, the great thing of being able to say, look at this soup of DNA, and now Lynn Cullen will definitely have diabetes and lupus, etc., and the ability, but not certainly in our lives, although who knows, to sort of clip that off. But then, as Lynn put, as she always is so prescient, yeah, but then, everyone's going to be able to throw the javelin. Everyone is going to be able to speak 62 languages because they're going to fuck with the DNA. Everyone's going to look like Mitt Romney. Yeah. No more hook noses, no more pot bellies.
I like hook noses.
I like pot bellies.
Yeah, that's the problem. Right. If they can start fixing us before we even get into the world, I don't know. To me, that's always a scary subject. And obviously there's great good that can come out of this as well. Well, guys, we do have to talk about the convention. Man, to quote another Democrat, now long gone, who I never really got into, but still, to quote him, I'm just pleased as punch about the way this Democratic convention is going.
Who's the one who said that? I remember the expression, but I can't remember who it was.
That would be Hubert Horatio Hornblower.
Yeah, right. Oh, he was the one who made that comment?
Oh, yeah, he was one happy fellow. He was always very happy.
And he had that little Porky Pig kind of voice.
Yeah, he did. And he had a Porky Pig kind of face.
That's what he did.
He did. And I think he was a good man, and he just had the misfortune of being the vice president during the Vietnam War. So, I did not love him, and nor did apparently America. So, anyone who feared that Clinton would, not be able to rise to the level of Michelle Obama's speech the evening before, of course, was absurd to think that. Just watching him walk out. It's like this is the oxygen he breathes.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
he must just so love.
Oh, yeah.
He was so in his element, so happy, looking so good. You noted that, too. He's just...
Stud muffin.
He never looked better.
No, it's
he
true.
just looks fantastic. What I thought, all in all, of that speech is what it showed is that guy, he's obviously extraordinarily bright. But what he can do is what Obama cannot seem to do, is very clearly, concisely explain things. He is a great teacher.
Yeah. And what's so funny
it was like a lecture in a way, right? You listen to it, you learn.
What's so funny is the fact of Mr. Obama is always, praised and criticized simultaneously for being an academic.
Yes.
And it's that academic who speaks in jargon and whatever.
Well,
but Clinton, I think, also is very, very smart. And I love the fact in the paper it said that people say that even for his most important, like State of the Union speeches and that, he was editing for the minutes even before he goes up on stage to make it clearer. But also, I think another thing Mr. Obama can't do is I don't think he can enjoy being a world leader. I think he has wonderful ideas about it, but Clinton walks in and I'm the boss.
Well, because he's a people person. He loves people. Obama, I think, tolerates people.
Can I tell you a funny little story that is Pittsburgh related? I remember Mrs. Hillman, Elsie Hillman, who everyone knows of, and she's very much a politico in the best sense of the word. And
she's one of those few good Republicans that are left, and why she's still in that party, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, anyway, she told the story that when Mr. Clinton became president, a year or two afterwards, there was some reception. I don't know where it was. No, it wasn't in Washington. I think it wasn't even. It was New York. It wasn't even Pittsburgh. And someone said, "Oh, would you like to meet the president?" She said, "Oh, sure." So she said, "Oh, just say Elsie from Pittsburgh. Don't say Hillman, whatever." And so they were in the line, and then all of a sudden, someone said, "Oh, and meet Elsie from Pittsburgh, and he just said, Mrs. Hillman.
Oh.
And he knew everything about her and whatever. And also people say to me, I know a number of people who met him, and they said that when he's in front of you, he just like gobbles you up.
That's
and
right.
Like he's talking to you, and he's so
That's
interested
right.
in what
and
you're
he does.
saying.
Everybody has that same reaction because I've heard it too. And that is extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah.
And charming. But that's because I think for that moment you are. You are. I mean, he's genuine. He loves people, I think. But boy, what a wonderful. He took on a lot of things that everybody else is tiptoeing around.
Right.
He waded right into it. One of the things I thought that was very interesting that he took on beautifully, as he did everything, was when he said it. He said, "I've never in my life seen the kind of hate that is directed at this president." And it's interesting that he would say that, because look at the hate that was directed at him.
Oh, right.
He was accused of, being a killer, a drug dealer, a God knows what. I mean, it was constant, and yet he sees what's going on with Obama as something unlike anything he has
because with
seen
Obama,
before.
it was sort of a priori. I mean, he was a black man.
Well, he did
He couldn't do anything wrong.
The one thing Clinton didn't do is he didn't say race, and I think that obviously is what the difference is. Also, it seems to me that when he took that on, he then immediately used it to say, I'm thinking of Republicans. I never hated Dwight Eisenhower. In fact, I love the guy because he's the one who sent federal troops into my state and ensured that the children would go to school. Yeah, and he said
in Wisconsin. You mean? I thought you were talking about yourself. You mean Clinton? Yeah. I was gonna say I don't remember particular great racism in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Follow the narrative, will ya?
You were missing a few commas, dear.
Are you sure?
Yes. Well, or maybe it's my ears. Anyway, go on.
She understood. Yeah, he followed.
All right.
Okay. And then he talked about, him building the interstate and all these wonderful things he had done. And then he even said, and George W. Bush, he praised George W. Bush for what I can't remember, but he did.
Yeah,
he praised him for something. And then he said both Bushes, and I've worked with both men. And what he was saying to these current sons of bitches that pass for Republicans now is, it is only you now that has created this total stalemate in our government because you refuse to do what everybody has done before you, Republican and Democrat, and that is cooperate.
No, bipartisan. I mean, that's one of the things he said, that at least those, even though there was disagreement, Congress went with them, whatever. And here it's just been, I mean, that's the one thing for, as we're going into the last 9 weeks, all right, maybe Mr. Obama has not done everything perfectly, but, the government works in a certain way in this country. And if Congress and the Senate both wipe you out. Yeah, you can veto something and they can come and override it. I mean, there's nothing to do. And they have just consistently overridden him again and again and again.
Well, because their purpose is clear, and Clinton talked about it too. They don't want him to succeed because they want the power.
Right.
And so it's party before country, which is really despicable. And Clinton talked about the fact that these were serious people that used to be in the Congress.
Right.
And they understood that their job was to get something done.
Exactly.
And that is now, and he flat out just said the Republican Party now sees cooperation, which is the bedrock of our system, sees cooperation as weakness.
Yes, as weakness, exactly.
Weakness. And they do.
They do. No, I completely agree with that.
So I thought, Clinton shows personality. That cute bit he did with, how Obama and this was in keeping with what he was saying. When Obama was elected, he reached out. He put Republicans in his cabinet. He put people who had fought him for the nomination in his cabinet and appointed. Heck, he even appointed Hillary.
Right.
Right?
Well, that's another interesting point that the paper, both papers that I read made, was the fact of, here was someone who was quite critical before the choices made for Mr. Obama because of his wife, and now he can come back and, of course, be a standard bearer. He's a Democrat, certainly, but just seeing the good in this and being able to say, well, all right, my wife, and now she's doing great.
Yeah. I just thought, it was like a grown-up talking.
Yes,
Everybody always said he was like a child as the president. Well, he had his flaws, certainly. However, that was truly an elder statesman, an historian, a wise man speaking. And
going back to his flaws, I remember just when all that was going on, meet a mistress, and that was publicly known.
Yeah, but that's France.
No, I know, but the point is, I know that, but all I'm saying is that everyone else just said, hey, he's a good president, who cares if he's
in fact, the American people said that because they reelected him.
Well, that's true.
That's right?
That's true, yeah.
But I loved his line that democracy does not have to be a blood sport.
Yeah, that was a good line.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. One thing that I get, because we talked about this last week about rhetoric, how much in a number of these instances, people use that very old-fashioned phrase, like what was the guy who made the keynote speech from Albuquerque? The Democrat.
Castro?
Yeah, Castro.
No, he's from Texas.
Okay. Texas? Okay.
San Antonio.
Oh, so I was thinking, San Antonio, right. And that sort of almost black church, like call and response, who did this? We did this. And that's just using the audience in that kind of
Who said
forum.
yesterday that they hate that call and response stuff? Who said that? They hate it when the audience starts doing that, when they start completing a phrase. Might have been Potter. I don't know. So some people.
Really?
People
I think
like
it's wonderful.
I think when I first saw it, ages ago, I really liked it. Sometimes I don't know. It can, but you know what? That's for the crowd. That you're speaking to a television audience and you're speaking to this convention audience. That's for. That whips
crowd,
up the crowd that's there.
Sure.
But
and that's what it's meant to do.
Exactly. Making a case, though, for... I learned things listening to Clinton. I learned that the growth of health care, the cost of health care, which has just been skyrocketing forever, is... I can't remember the number, is hugely down already in just the 2 years since Obamacare has been passed. That growth rate has dropped.
Really?
So that I think he said it was like at 4% last year, the growth. It is still growing, but it's not growing like 15, 20%. And I think what he said was it is the slowest growth rate in the cost of healthcare in this country in the last 50 years.
But now how can that be? Not that I question that, but Obamacare doesn't take effect for like another year or so.
Bits of it have. Pieces of it have.
Oh, I didn't
what do
know
you
that.
mean?
I thought it wasn't supposed to.
You weren't listening to the teacher last night. He said already what's happened. People have gotten. My sister got a check for $800 from the federal government.
Oh, really?
Oh no, from her insurance company.
Oh, okay.
Mandated by the federal government this
I thought
summer.
it wasn't supposed to start until 2014.
Certain provisions have kicked in.
Right, well.
Kids who are, and it helped Jess already.
Oh.
No.
Jess says no.
No. I'm saying it helped Jess already because she was able to be.
Last year.
She was she was without insurance, and then was able to get insurance on her mother's policy because it allowed parents to keep their kids on, and Jess was able to do that.
Okay, I knew that was I thought that wasn't
That's been
coming.
huge for a lot of people.
Really? Okay, all right.
Insurance companies that didn't spend enough of their premiums on the money coming in from their premiums on health care had to reimburse their customers, which is how my sister got her check.
Wow, great. Then,
companies have gotten checks. What else is kicked in? I got a letter from Highmark not too long ago saying that there were changes to my policy. And I thought, oh, God, what's this? And it turns out, and I was stunned because the changes were positive. It was like, you can now have, certain preventive female kinds of things and with no copay and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, this has to be Obamacare. And sure enough, it takes them a while to get to it. But at the bottom of the letter, they say these changes mandated by the Affordable Care Act. Okay. Now, what worries me is since most people think of it as Obamacare, they don't know what the hell the Affordable Care Act is. So when they start seeing this stuff happening in their own lives, touching them like that, I want them to know, and this is that is the dreaded, horrible Obamacare.
Right.
And it will continue. Also, here's some other things I learned. I learned that there are 250,000 more workers in the American auto industry today than since Obama bailed them out.
Right.
That's 250,000. And what was Romney's idea? Let him go bankrupt.
Right.
Because that's what he knows. That's what he knows. Obama's record on national security.
Right.
Clinton boiled it down to, you know what? We now are working with more allies in the world, and we have fewer enemies.
Right.
When Republicans are in power, it seems all we got are enemies because we go it alone, right?
Well, what did Romney say the first day he's in office? What was he going to do with China? That was such a vote.
Yeah. And then he'll bomb Iran and who knows what. No, it's the difference between these two parties and what their values are, what they offer, is so stark.
No, it's
I
true.
hope people are paying attention. I do not comprehend how anyone, given the choice of seeing this one party seemingly made up of these selfish, I did it all, I built that, no one helped me, you go help yourself, blah, 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 and a party that rises and cheers when someone suggests that they all work together.
Yeah, exactly.
Why? Who would choose the former?
Exactly. Well, those people who believe in an empire. And everyone who's smart, I mean, this is regardless of Obama or Bush or Clinton or Eisenhower, whatever. I mean, we're at the end of our empire, of the American empire. I said this once before. We're not going to be Guam, but, it's not going to be like it has been for the last 100 years.
You know what? I don't know. It won't be because things change.
Things change.
But I don't think we will remain as we are right now. We are the most powerful nation on earth now.
Now, right.
Now.
But I don't think that's going to be true.
But power has more to do than what kind of power are you talking about?
Well, no.
But
I mean, taking a stick and saying, get in line. I don't think that's what it should be, but that's what Republicans think.
Well, I
was thinking, funny of Star Trek when they always talk about the Federation. This conglomerate of people trying to. Of course, there's always going to be backbiting and whatever in it, but that's where government is going towards.
Okay, here's something else I learned. When Obama took office, this country was losing 800,000 jobs a month.
Ooh.
A month.
I'm sure.
I thought you turned that off.
I did.
800,000 jobs a month. Now, as of the last time we could compile the numbers, which is July, we are adding, give or take a few, around 150,000 a month over the past year. And that is despite a huge laying off of tons of government workers, right?
Right.
Okay. So it isn't enough. It's slow. But if you look at any graph, here's where we were, and under Obama, it's going up. And so when you are that question that Paul Ryan keeps asking, and I'm sure Romney does too, the question you have to ask is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Frankly, guys, the answer is you damn well betcha you are. And again, Clinton made clear, you don't always feel it, even when it is happening. I mean, we're at the bottom, and so we're the last to feel it, but all the indicators are in the right direction. And to yank Barack Obama now is insane, because what he's doing is working.
Well, I'm thinking about the Great Depression. It took a decade to get out of it.
You know what got us out?
Well, the war, but still.
Yeah, okay. So here's a great letter to the New York Times from a great named town, Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Blowing Rock? I mean, I'm just trying to imagine what the rocks are blowing. I mean, how do rocks blow? I don't get that. Anyway, Blowing Rock, North Carolina, okay? And even more astonishing, the guy writing it is named Ed Rosenberg, which is a Jewish name. Yeah. And to think there'd be a Jew in Blowing Rock.
The South has a lot of Jewish communities.
I know. But Blowing Rock?
That sounds like where, what do you call it, should be Honey Boo Boo lives.
Please. Well, could we get through a show without you? I could shoot myself for, I'm the one who turned you on to it.
You did.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Here's Ed Rosenberg writing from Blowing Rock. Okay, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? The question is misleading and off target. Here's the relevant question. Are you better off than you would have been if John McCain and Sarah Palin had been elected? That's the question.
Yeah, right.
That is the correct question. Or the other question will be, will you be better off 4 years from now if Romney and Ryan win, or if Obama and Biden are reelected? And but that's the truth. What do you mean, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Let's talk about the reality.
Right,
would you have, you have to relate that to something. And yes, we got a caller. Hello there, caller. Hello.
How you doing, Lynn?
I'm doing great.
Hey, the only problem with the job creation is, I was reading an article, most of the jobs pay $7 to $13 an hour.
Right.
And that's the big problem when Clinton was in there. There was a lot of work, but it was the jobs that didn't pay a lot.
Well, here's the problem.
And you got Walmart as your second largest employer.
Right.
You got a problem.
Yeah. And that's a huge, huge problem. And that has to do with what this has to do with the new kind of rabid capitalism that now we have in this country. And it's the kind of capitalism that even a fascist like Henry Ford knew was not good for the country. He knew, and I don't know how we can forget such an easy message, he knew that if he didn't pay his workers a living wage, and a wage good enough that they could buy the product he was putting out, he wanted that he wasn't going to make it. So this is what these rabid, I did it myself capitalists that are in, hold sway now. Why they're so damn stupid. Because they don't see the big picture, don't realize. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Great call. If you impoverish your own workers, then you impoverish the economy. And even though you're making off with most of the gains of their labor, by the way, you're creating a terrible, terrible, horribly screwed up nation in which a few have way, way, way more than their share, and the multitude is scrapping around with your crap wages you're paying.
Well, it's like the Industrial Revolution.
It didn't used to be that way. There was much more of a humane, honorable contract between the job creator and the laborer, the person who did the job. And I don't know. Unions had a lot to do with that because I guess given their druthers, the guys at the top don't want to share. They never went to the right preschool where they were taught that, you share. They don't know how to do that. And they're too stupid and too self-absorbed and self-involved and myopic to understand that by giving, by being generous, you actually create, first of all, a workforce with high morale, a workforce with loyalty, a workforce who wants to come and work for you, who respects you, not hates you.
We're doing call and response.
Yes. And like you said, I didn't see him. That the head of Costco spoke at the convention. Now that's a capitalist, and that's an entrepreneur. That's a job creator, and he was there to say what? I didn't build it myself,
right.
But he was largely responsible. And I've read quite a bit about this guy, who, by the way, was born in Lawrenceville.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yep. He was born into working class reality. He knew how hard people worked.
Sure.
And
especially Pittsburgh, a very stratified
pays
society.
his workers well.
Well, there was always
and
that
good
notion
benefits.
that people, post the Depression, certainly, but felt like, I worked for International Harvester, which was a big factory in south side of Chicago where I lived. And, people had good pensions and good health benefits.
Yep.
Now it was a different time, and no one talked about the boss as being this rotten, nasty, horrible person. And now it's just that notion of forget that. I mean, it's like, I think I mentioned this once before about Japan. For many, many, many years, people were so linked to their companies in Japan because the notion was the man would never.
He takes care of you.
Yeah.
Well, no, you take.
And now that's changed.
Well, that paternalistic model doesn't, it doesn't excite me a lot either.
Well, no. But the point being, if they took care of you, you work well because you're treated well.
I like where everybody sees, again, that there's something in it for.
It's a matrix.
That's right. This is a symbiotic relationship.
Yes, right, exactly.
Hey, you money bags, you can't do what you want to do without me.
Right, exactly.
And I can't make any money without you.
Without you, right.
So we're in this together. What's happened is that what the worker creates and does has been so devalued.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And the only thing that seems to matter is money and who's raking it in. And they did it themselves.
And now these factories that use robots who can do it faster, who don't get hurt.
But see, all of that, this is why when the caller said, these jobs, there's jobs, and they pay crap, and they don't have benefits. And that is a result, too, of the fact that we don't manufacture much of anything anymore. Those were the good jobs, manufacturing jobs. And we are now a service economy. And if you look at what the fastest growing jobs are, they're all low-paying jobs. They are.
Sure.
Nursing home attendants.
Right.
What do they make? Nothing. Do they make a living wage? Nah. Service workers. It's people, if you stop and think about it, I hate to say it, it's people to wait on us.
No. Yeah.
Because we are a culture now that is all about consumption and indulgence and comfort, and I guess that 1% really has a lot of yards to be kept beautiful and homes to be kept beautiful and parties to give. That's all fine and dandy, but the fact of the matter is the labor that we're talking about is not valued and is definitely not compensated at a rate that allows that hard worker to live.
Well, and hence why so many companies flew to right-to-work states where, there weren't unions and therefore they could get people below wage and unions weren't protecting the workers anymore. And that's not to say unions are playing the same role they did during the Depression and the turn of the century, but It's getting more for less.
All the things that labor got us. Tom's ringtone? Hang on. I absolutely love Tom's ringtone. It reminds me of the QED pledge breaks from the late 70s.
Oh, yeah. Well, see,
What is your ringtone?
Well, it's just the old-fashioned telephone. Like, ding!
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I did turn it off, but I also remember wanting
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood trolley toy. Oh, speaking of Mr. Rogers, I have to tell you this. This is so funny. So after Clinton gets done speaking and Obama surprises us and walks out and they hug and all, everybody's happy and all this kind of stuff, it was like 11:30. And my phone rang. And I have to tell you, at 11:30, my phone doesn't, that's late.
Right.
And I thought, who the heck? What the heck? And I ran to get the phone and looked at the caller ID, and it was Joanne Rogers. It was Fred's
widow. Right.
And I thought, what? And I picked up and said, Joanne! And she said, "Ow! Are you loving this?" And she had been obviously watching, and she was so wanting to share her joy with somebody, and she figured, Lynn'll be up. She's got to watch it. I'll call her. She was just sky high.
Now, have you seen this new iteration of the cartoon?
No, I don't think it's been out. She's happy.
No, it has, I think. It launched this week, I think.
I mean, it's not like I watch.
No, but I thought
like
you're new, Fred.
Well, interestingly, I know Fred generally wasn't wild about animation, but I mean, the fact is it had to go somewhere. I mean, there had.
Well, they certainly didn't want to put, a new person. How can you usurp Fred Rogers?
All right. So, somebody's sending me graphs about job change under Bush versus Obama. Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter
January
is,
10, it goes up.
And I loved what Clinton did with his scorecard, where he talked about these are the jobs. There's been this many jobs created in the last 50 years, and Republicans were in charge for 28 of those years. We were in charge for 20. And the score under Democratic administrations, over twice as many jobs, I believe, were created.
Yeah.
And then he talks also about how, what the jobs created by Obama with no help whatsoever from anything suggested by the Republican Congress. So Obama, yes, has created jobs, and the Republican Congress, zero.
Right. Another thing, I just being an art historian, I love symbolism, and I thought it was very interesting that Obama, because normally the president, even though he's being nominated, but usually doesn't appear until he gives
No,
his
but
speech.
so that was a little surprise.
Well, surprise, but also the fact of paying
That's right.
homage.
And wanting...
and he's obviously the top banana.
Wanting a picture of the two hugging each other, too.
And also recognizing them bringing Mr. Clinton on wasn't just like, let's be nice to the old guy. It was they wanted his power to glom onto it.
Somebody tweeted, I was disappointed, the tweet said, I was disappointed that at the end of Clinton's speech, Obama didn't come out and drape a cape over Clinton's back like James Brown at the end of the day. And the two of them he could have helped Clinton off the stage.
And that was so funny because I never saw him live, but I saw him on TV a number of times. But that would happen every time he ended almost dying.
I know, I love it. That's great. Okay, we gotta.
Only you could bring James Brown into it.
Well, it was a tweet. I didn't think of that. I thought it was wonderful. We got to get to a break, but Joellen quickly writes, funny, Tom mentions International Harvester. International Harvesters reporting record profits and demanding concessions from the union workers. What else is new? Welcome to the new America.
Right.
Okay, we'll be back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Go to birdbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, the History Museum, Carnegie Museums, and some of the best restaurants in Pittsburgh. This week, get 50% off tickets to the Pittsburgh Irish Festival. Birdbargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. Birdbargains.com.
Oh, gosh. So I got, I'm telling you about the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council, their need for volunteer tutors. And Tom's sitting here one day when I'm making that plea. He's writing down the phone number, and your phone.
Getting trained. I think it's next Saturday. And the
Is his mic
Saturday.
on?
Oh.
There you go.
Go ahead.
I
Rick.
said I'm called up, and I'm going to do one of the one-on-ones because they offer you the opportunity of that or doing a group with English as a second language. And I thought, I think I'd much rather do a one-on-one. And so you go for 12 hours, I think, over 2 days to be trained. And it's interesting, they demand you must have a college education because I guess you have to be able to ferret out when people are asking you questions, how to teach and whatever. And then you agree to do two-hour sessions a week with your
So you
person.
agree you pledge to do 4 hours a week,
right, for a 6-month
tutoring.
period. Yeah.
And do you meet the your tutoree at a specific?
Well, you can either go to their offices or they said, Starbucks or any place.
Go anywhere you want.
McDonald's, and sit down and have coffee and just do it.
Will you be nervous, you think, the first
I
time?
don't think so. I've taught. I've never done this kind of teaching, but I've taught before, and I like it.
Well, that's wonderful.
I think to see someone who could become the next head of Costco because he can read or she can read, I think that's very, very, ennobling.
Exactly. Good for you, Tom.
Well, thank you.
Join Tom, will you? Become a volunteer tutor. You got 4 hours a week? Most people do.
Oh, sure, if it's just after work or...
Whenever, and you'll also learn a skill. You're going to be trained.
Sure, right. Well, exactly.
You're going to be trained. So what Tom did was he called 412-393-7600. And that's the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council. You can also go on their website at gplc.org. They have a waiting list now. Somebody wants to learn how to read, and they have to say, I'm sorry, we got to put you on our waiting list. So they're going to train him, get him up and going, and that's one name they'll be able to cross off.
Sure.
Fantastic. Okay.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Yeah, David tells me, I did know this, Art Modell, hardly a popular figure in Cleveland, has died. He spirited that, you don't know, Tom, because you're not into it, but this Art Modell was the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and he spirited them out of Cleveland, like in the dead of night, and brought them to Baltimore. I might be
But they have a team now
exaggerating,
again, though. Didn't they get another team?
Yeah. They got another team, but frankly, their team is now in
Baltimore.
in the dreaded Baltimore Ravens. So there you have it. I always thought it was a despicable act myself. I don't know anything about him. Gigi writes, I appreciate the wonderful conversation when Tom is on the show, but today I happened to glance at the video of your show while I'm sitting here working, and I thought, did they color coordinate today?
Of course we did.
Lovely. Okay, back to the issues. Clinton was amazing last night. Indeedy, we did not coordinate. So, Tom, I was surprised you did. So you don't know the big art news is that the Andy Warhol Foundation has decided to change, I guess, its whole whatever it does, and it's holding on to a lot.
Well, the idea was, I remember from the first day, 16 years ago, when I became director, the then president, a man named Arch Gillies, who had been in the city administration in the 60s of New York City. What was the guy's name, the really handsome mayor?
Lindsay.
Yes, John Lindsay. And so he was the first director of the foundation, and he said to me, Tom, eventually the foundation should be in the business of making grants to artists and art critics, and et cetera,
As opposed to the business of what?
Well, the
preserving.
the business of Warhol, which meant everything from being a museum to protecting his copyright to making profits from licensing T-shirts and DVDs and what have you. And they changed their mind about the latter. But basically, they were selling many of the paintings that were left after they made the gifts to the Warhol Museum and sold artworks below price estimate to museums around the country back 1990 or so. And so they didn't have much left. And what was interesting to me, I didn't finish reading the Times bit of it, I read the Journal. There's not a lot of super juicy stuff left because I remember going through. And because a few times.
So the super juicy stuff.
Well, meaning great paintings.
Ended up here in Pittsburgh
well,
or in
all
private?
over. Well, both, because from Warhol died in '87. The estate became the foundation, like late '89, '90, and then for basically 10 years, they had major sales in galleries in New York, in Paris, in Frankfurt, in Basel, in California, and sold hundreds and thousands of works of art. I mean, huge, big paintings. And that's when the endowment of the foundation rose by $100 million, I bet. As to when the prices started going up exponentially. And I knew they had a lot of drawings left over and a lot of photographs and some prints, the silkscreen prints, but and they say some paintings. But it's interesting, in both the Times and in the Journal, they show two sort of unique images. One from the '80s of these three targets, really rather handsome work, and then a very unique Jackie. I'd never seen that image before.
Here, I'll show. This is a bigger one. I'll show it here. It's incredible. You never saw this.
Well, no, it really is an anomaly in Warhol's work, because they're the other Jackie images that the museum has and other people have.
That's like the flag over her head, face.
Is it?
Don't you think it's the American flag?
Oh yeah, it could be. Yeah,
what else
you're right.
is it?
Well, I thought.
But also with the
red,
with the blood of her husband. But I think it's also the flag, but the blood of her husband.
But what's interesting is what's going on in back and forth is the foundation, I guess, decides that they want to make a big whoop with this and get a lot of publicity. And then, 5 years from now, all they'll do is they'll still do licensing, I presume, but give out grants. But they've been moving back from this because now, although putting this work out, a number of people, both Christie's, who's going to do much of this is going to be online, so that again tells you they're not super high-value works, because you want lots of rich people in the room when you have $100 million.
Well, Warhol
painting.
was forever just scribbling on everything. So I mean, some of this stuff is what, like scraps of paper, or like
could be. Well, but I mean, drawing the
book.
size 11 by 18 or whatever. Some could be little things. A lot Polaroids of the size of Polaroids.
Oh, right, those little Polaroids.
8 by 10 photos. I remember thousands and thousands and thousands of photographs. But even the worst of those, the least interesting, are selling for at least probably $8,000 or $10,000. So you do that times thousands, and there's a lot of money. And then a couple of big paintings. It's interesting they bring up the name of this one family, Mugrabe, who are out of New York, who are really sleazeballs. And they wanted to buy everything the foundation had, and then they go back and resell it. So, but it's interesting, every time Warhol gets in the news, it's always around notions of money.
It's always big. It's
always big. Yeah,
and,
exactly.
So when Christie's, so this is to Christie's benefit, obviously. So when Christie's sells a Warhol for $100,000, how much? Who gets what? How much?
Well, this commission is usually about 7%, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Although what I'm sure...
I thought it was more.
I don't think so. No. It's usually about 7, maybe 10, but no more than that.
Okay.
I think it's 7. But anyway, I'm sure what happened, and I would have done the same thing, they go to the 3 major or four.
Sotheby's,
Phillips, and DePervy is another one.
Christie's.
And they then ask, and they say, I'm sure they asked for a, what's the term?
a bid.
Well, no, not a bid, but like
What?
what you can do is, let's say you have a painting and it's a Rembrandt, and you say, well, it's a really good Rembrandt, but you never know who's going to be in the auction room. So I want you to say to me, this work is so good that no matter who bids on it, they're going to promise you $35 million.
Oh, I see. So you set certain limits.
Yeah. There's a term for it, which I can't remember right
Okay.
now. But anyway, and that means they have to give you $35 million, even if it is bought out, or they only get $26 million. They have to come up with the additional because they've assured you.
Oh, wow.
So I'm
Well,
sure
they don't do that for every
No.
item.
No. But if you have a big juicy
like for this
thing.
one.
No,
Or
well,
the
even this for
Jackie
this
thing?
one, but I'm saying when you have hundreds, I forgot what they said, 10,000 items or something, you could make a good case, and they know what the prices of Warhol is, so they probably gave them an assurance of so much for the whole sale.
All right.
Backroom deals.
Oh, God.
Republicans.
And the art world. You already mentioned the word sleazy, didn't you?
Well, people
very sleazy.
in business and the law have always said,
The sleaziest.
no, not sleazy, but it is the last great unregulated industry.
Well, and it's why but that's why there's incredible fraud. There's theft.
Oh, yeah.
People,
Well,
and
the
this
thing
is
is that-
another thing that I always wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So somebody steals a famous painting.
Right.
What do they can't hang it in the living room. They
Well,
can't.
but there's always
How
some-
do they sell it when everybody knows it's stolen?
Well, yes. But there's always, we always say, there's always some old, former Nazi living on a hill in Brazil somewhere. I mean, that's being slightly grandiloquent about it. But
Right.
yeah, if you just want it, you want this in your house, and you live a fairly private life, or maybe it's in a vault in your basement that you go and sit in front of it. Oh, there are people who do that sort of
Why
thing.
would you? Okay.
No, seriously. Or, there's times, for example, there were 3 paintings, I'm trying to remember what they were now, that were stolen from the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. This is now like 25 years ago. And they have the guy in jail in Boston who masterminded this.
But they still don't have the
They
painting?
still don't have them, and he says, I know exactly where they are, and you have to do this, and let me out, and then give me some money, and they won't, and the pictures have never seen the light of day.
Wow. So do you think sometimes these things are stolen, like on commission, essentially?
Oh, there have been instances, yeah, definitely.
Where the Nazi in in Brazil specifically asked for. Well, I know. I want.
Because who knows
painting.
what's hanging in my bedroom, for example. I'm not a Nazi on top of a mountain, but who knows what I have across from my bed in my bedroom. Hundreds of people don't come in. So
what do you have across from your bed?
Well, I have a painting by a woman named Ida Applebrook. But anyway, no, I used to. It moved. But anyway, no, but I'm just saying, even me, I'm a public person to a certain degree, but people don't come to my apartment, so I could have Rembrandts,
Nobody comes into your apartment?
Well, not to the private hortus conclusus of my bedroom. But,
there we go. Hortus conclusus?
The enclosed garden.
Oh, okay.
But no, there's all of that sort of thing. Well, for example, there have been a couple of cases where someone has said, you're saying to me, oh, Tom, you're now a freelancer or whatever. Could you sell my, Rembrandt? Okay, fine. You give it to me. You know me, so we don't sign any piece of paper. I sell it for you. I have your painting. I have the money from Jess, who's paid me for it. And then I scup her off, and I say, oh, I don't know what happened to it. So you're both out, and then there's like a Ponzi scheme, and then I really sell it to some Chinese guy. Oh, there have been tons of places, but everyone's like, oh, we're buddies. Lynn won't do me wrong.
Okay, so no one in the art world trusts anyone else in the art world.
Less and less, let's put it that way. No, really, because it's all supposed to be about
The art.
Oh, the art, the beauty.
Oh, yeah.
When it's about, ka-ching, 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 and everyone's there with their calculators.
Well, the fact also that it's unregulated probably is why there's so many. I mean, some of the paintings and the prices are so absurd.
Oh, ridiculous.
I mean, just absurd.
Well, when a friend of mine who is a painting dealer in London found what he thinks is a painting by Caravaggio, great 17th century Italian painter, who had an output maybe of 45 works, had a short life, lived very wildly, and killed people, and had sex with everything and everyone, and made these really extraordinary artworks. He thinks he's found the original of this series of 3. And I haven't seen it. Friends have, and they think it's absolutely right. But anyway, he's been trying to sell it, and there's some controversy over if it is really indeed, or was it a copy, blah, blah, blah. He had sort of said, I think it's probably worth $100 million. And he's been hard to get that. Whereas Warhol's, and I'm not talking about Warhol's a great artist too, but he produced so many thousands and thousands of work just in terms of supply and demand. And Warhols are more expensive than
That doesn't
Caravaggio.
make any sense.
Well, it's because of what the market wants. I would say no one knows Caravaggio, but if it was in your living room, most of the people who would come in would say, what's that represent? And it's weird iconography. And most wouldn't know the name Caravaggio, although they might say, it's an old thing. Whereas you walk in Warhol and you say, Lynn Cullen can afford Warhols. My clucking.
So there's.
It's like having a Gucci belt or a Jaguar parked in front of your house. People know immediately that you have cojones if you can afford those.
Oh, God. So it's just showing off.
Oh, it is showing off.
Okay.
So.
What is it with people and that need to show off? You would think people would be embarrassed to show off. You know what I mean?
They never have been.
I would be.
Okay.
I mean, some personalities would be. I mean, it's like if you're ostentatiously, showing that I have wealth, that bespeaks to me like a
vulgarity.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the one story, and I can't remember the man's name now, but in the 17th century, under Louis XIV, one of his ministers who built the chateau called Vaux-le-Vicomte in the outskirts of Paris, well, a little farther out, built this extraordinary chateau. It's absolutely beautiful. The king was invited, was so sort of aghast that his minister would have something that was trying
so
to
much
rival.
Money? What?
Well, money, because he was being paid well, but he was also bilking everyone for money. But that he would try to rival the king's lavishness, so he immediately threw him in irons the next day. Which I think was really quite wonderful. So don't get tardier than a king who had a big ego.
Oh, dear God. So you hear about the 83-year-old woman who fought off the
rabid
beaver?
Yeah. For 20 minutes.
For 20 minutes! She had a beaver with orange teeth.
Yeah, right. But maybe
hanging onto her leg. No. Chewing her leg.
Well, what was she doing swimming
in a
night?
lake?
In a lake.
Was it at night?
I think that's what it said.
I think
so.
It was.
Yes, it was like.
It's a private lake.
Oh, private lake.
And she does that in the evenings. I don't think it was dark.
Maybe it wasn't dark.
So she sounds like she's 83 and she goes for a nightly swim.
She's stalwart.
And as she was getting out, something clamped onto her leg, and it was a beaver.
A rabid beaver.
A rabid beaver. This is in a suburb of Washington. DC.
Oh, I thought it was something really in the...
No. It's like in Virginia somewhere.
Oh, dear. Maybe just it was a mean Republican.
No, it's in Fairfax. So it's Fairfax,
really?
Virginia.
Very urban.
Yeah, and she's 83 years old, but she's very active and still even works as a real estate agent. She's screaming and trying to get this beaver off her. It ain't happening.
Beating it with an oar.
No, but she didn't beat it. She didn't have an oar until some guy heard her, and he was fishing, and he comes with his oar. He also called 911.
Smart.
But for 20 minutes, that man and
his
her,
leg probably
and a
didn't look
few
too good.
times they got the beaver off her.
And it chewed back down.
And, you know, he thought it was dead at one point.
Okay.
It was lying there. And she's like, you know, she's desperately trying to crawl out of the water. And the beaver, like, comes alive like a Stephen King movie.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And like, gets
Well, he
on.
thought that was a pretty good hammock or whatever he had.
Oh, my God. You see, a rabid animal is
sure,
like a human on adrenaline and steroids.
Yeah, because once he would have
right.
been frightened or whacked on the head, he would have gone back in the water. But
oh, here it is. The emergency people, the EMTs, had gotten there, and they were treating her. And all of a sudden, the beaver flips over and comes back to life. Then one of the paramedics grabbed one of the paddles.
That's whacking it.
And began, battling the animal.
Jeez.
And finally, the fisherman had some kind of a net, and he managed to get it over the animal.
Poor beaver.
And they used, the beaver's dead. They killed that beaver. She had serious wounds. I mean,
I'll probably have to have 20 shots too.
Well, that's the other thing I really wanted to talk about. Being a reporter for ages. Every time
we know about the part with another animal.
No. But being in the news and rabies stories always ended the same way. And so-and-so, Mrs. Peterson here, is undergoing a painful series of rabies shots.
But you always got in the stomach
It was always, oh, God, what's even worse than being attacked by the animal is the shots.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you never hear anything else say painful series.
You're absolutely right.
And so this is Ms. Peterson said she was being treated for rabies with painful shots. Okay, so I'm confused about that because it was my understanding that in the last 10, 15, 20 years...
I know what you're going to say, yeah.
They've changed the way they don't do it in the stomach. It is not painful, and I'm stunned at this retro thing about painful shots.
Well, it's like weapons of mass destruction. It's out there, and you can't... I knew a kid who went to school with me, and this girl was in school with me, and she was bitten by a rabid dog, I think it was, and she said they were very uncomfortable. And why they have to give them in your stomach or something?
Well, but they did, but now they don't.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe in Fairfax, Virginia, and maybe if you'd been chewed on for 20 minutes, you would have to have the shots.
Oh, God. Ooh. With orange teeth. I mean, first of all, think of what a beaver's teeth look like. Because, I mean, Bucky Beaver? Beaver have these huge
teeth.
Huge teeth because they need them to chew on wood.
Oh, right,
How much wood would chuck? I mean, they got the big beaver. And they were like filthy and orange, and the thing is drooling and and it's got a big chunk out of her leg. That'll teach her to stay in shape. All right.
Jack LaLanne, watch out. Was he dead?
He's dead.
He died recently, though.
Yeah, he's dead.
I always remember Jack LaLanne because even when he was 90-something, he always had, this like V-shaped body.
He looked great.
But he was like about 4 feet tall.
Yeah, he was very tiny.
Yeah.
Very tiny, but yeah. Okay.
Beaver would like to chew on him, I'm sure. And with that, listeners, have a good Thursday.
Indeed.
Watch The President tonight.
Yeah, President tonight. And I will definitely look forward to that. Man, he's got... Oh, the best line Clinton said is, I am here. He started out by saying, I'm here to nominate a man who, blah, blah, blah. I am here to nominate a man who, blah, blah, blah. I am here to nominate a man. And he said something like, who had the... who had the good sense to marry Michelle Obama. Or he said something about it. Was a shout out to Michelle and her... which I thought was cute.
Oh, one last thing. Did anyone mention in the press this morning, because everyone was talking about the fact last night, that wasn't there the first football game? And they were wondering about how many people were going to watch the football game. I'd be curious to know.
Who won the game?
Oh, who knows? Who cares?
Dallas did.
Dallas won?
They were winning when I fell asleep.
You were watching the game.
Of course.
I forgot all about the game. Actually.
But now, isn't there something tonight? Another football
Yeah,
game
there
tonight?
is. Opposite Obama.
The thing is, on this level, I don't care whether Republican, Democrat.
But you
I mean,
wonder
here-
how they scheduled it like that.
Well, that, number one. But, like, people wouldn't put aside, it's the first game of the season. They're going to have
God,
55 more games to watch.
No.
And they all have TiVo, don't they? Or many people do.
Well, they TiVo the president.
Well, if they do, but then at least watch it. My
Most
point
people
is-
don't watch.
Well,
okay?
I know.
All right.
Most people are stupid, too.
All right. We were saying goodbye.
Goodbye, stupid people.
No,
not our listeners.
Jesus Christ.
Not our listeners. Our listeners are adroit, articulate, speculative, imaginative, rebarbative, and just good plain fun.
I can say no more.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.